Before you buy from Monster Transmission, I think you ought to listen to what I have to say about my personal experience with what it means to one, interact with this company, two, give them your hard earned money, and number three, what does the warranty actually mean? And four, if you think you've seen bad customer service, wait till you hear my story. My side of the story is I purchased a transmission back in July of last year. It was actually July 8th of 2020. I paid $3,233.77 for it. I finally received it. Well, it was shipped on 9/24, so about 2.5 months later, and I got it a couple of weeks. So it took, first of all, it took about 3 months to receive the transmission. I will just share with you my experience with Monster is that timetable is not discussed nor sort of communicated. Okay, so the one thing I would just say to people, I'm not telling people not to use Monster. I think we're all big boys and girls. We can make our own decision. But from my standpoint, when you ordered the transmission, there was never a discussion of, oh, by the way, you're looking at 12 weeks until you receive it. So I would say that's number one. The second thing is, when you do follow up and call them to find out what's going on, I kept going, oh, it's in quality control. It's in quality control. So they give you the impression that it's pretty much done and it's ready to go out the door. But that's not necessarily true. So I just think people I feel like they should communicate and let people know what's realistic, because in my circumstance, this wasn't a transmission that was going into a replacing a transmission that was in a car. My car is a 1955 Buick Roadmaster. So it's basically a custom, hot rod car. And the guys that were doing the work here for me in Pennsylvania, I'm telling them that the transmission should be here in a month, and it doesn't show up for 3 months. These guys actually build race cars for a living. So my build was somewhat custom. Okay, so we were putting a transmission, an engine, doing a retrofit back into an older car. So number one, I would just say, if you're going to do business with them, make sure you pin them down. But also know that in my case, they told me what I wanted to hear, not necessarily what reality was. And that put me in a bind with the guy that was doing the work for me. The bigger issue, quite honestly, is when I did finally get the transmission and my guy finally got it, basically in the car and got it all mounted and hooked up to the motor. When I did drive the car, it wouldn't shift into overdrive. So the whole purpose of me actually getting that specific transmission was that it has overdrive, so you can actually drive the car up on the highway and drive highway speeds and not have the motor revving and what have you. Now, my transmission would not shift into overdrive. And so on 4/21 of this year, I finally gave them a call and said, hey, I think we got a problem here. And they asked me to take video. So I took video with my son driving up on the highway at highway speeds, and the engine's revving and the car's not going into overdrive. So I sent them the video of that. Basically, between April 21st and today, there's been 8 separate phone calls, okay, and multiple emails, and there's still no resolution. Okay, and um, what I've tried to, I mean, I've sent them video. I've actually paid a gentleman who is a from a local transmission shop who builds race transmissions. I paid him to come out and drive the car with me. He then documented on his letterhead what was wrong with the transmission. And I sent that along with the video, along with pictures of basically all the transmission fluid that's laying on my driveway. So the long and short of it is the transmission lasted less than 400 miles. So I spent $3,200 and I basically got less than 400 miles out of a transmission that never worked from day one. So yeah, I mean it's aggravating. When you are told specifically that they're building the transmission custom for you. Number one. Number two, they advertise that they take every single one of their transmissions and they bolt it to a test vehicle and take that transmission and they actually drive the car with the transmission in it and do road tests to make sure that the transmission is ready to go. Okay. I quite honestly, I think that's a bunch of BS because if they did, they would know that this transmission wasn't working properly and they would have never shipped it. So, so I'm out at this point, a transmission. I'm out a fee for a guy to come drive my car. And I'm now out labor to get the transmission out of the car. And I'm going to end up probably paying someone to have to build it again. So that's kind of where we are. So when you ask me what's the problem, that's the problem. As far as what I paid for a 3-year warranty. I think, once again, not going to tell anybody who they should and shouldn't do business with, but one thing that people have to know about the warranty is there's conversation in the warranty that they'll pay for up to $600 worth of labor. You should know that's only if the transmission is not being asked to be returned to them. In my case, they basically watched the video and said, wow, that transmission, something's not right. You're going to need to send that transmission back to us. So what people have to understand about that is if that transmission needs to be taken out of the car and sent back to Monster, which is what they're requesting from me, number one, you are going to pay for the labor to take the transmission in and out of the car, not them. Number two, you are going to pay for the shipping to send it to them and back. Okay? That $600 that they put in there, all that is if they don't think the transmission needs to be sent back to them, and that, like you just need someone at a local transmission shop to adjust a linkage or check the fluid or something like that. If they really screw the transmission up and it needs to come out, you're paying the whole freight. The only thing that they're going to do under that warranty is they said they're going to rebuild the transmission, and they supposedly said they expect a 2-week turnaround. But once again, I've been lied to for almost a year now. Why would I trust that is the truth? I own my own businesses. I'm like a buyer beware person. I don't usually take shots at people, but this particular situation has gotten me angry. Okay. I'll go a step further. In the phone calls, I've requested that someone from the management team call me to discuss the matter, and I am told management does not have a direct line. I said, I'm sorry, I don't understand what that means. They said, management does not have a direct line. I said, okay, you're telling me in 2021 that These people don't have access to email, a cell phone, or a telephone in the office. They said they do not, they just go down, they say the same thing. They do not have a direct line. So basically, what they have is they have a customer service department that basically does everything they can to frustrate you and do nothing for you. And when you try to get someone that has authority on the phone, no one will get on the phone with you. I would say the perfect resolution is $1,500 because that's what I'm going to be. I'm probably going to be more than that, but I'm not. I'm not a unreasonable person, an unreasonable man. 1,500 bucks refunded to me because of the faulty product you sent to me, and I would be more than happy to accept that and walk away. I just want people to understand what they're getting into when they work with this company because once again, I the the way that I've been treated by the in particular Alyssa. The other ladies I spoke to were fine. I mean, I felt like they were working with me. The one gal, Alyssa, that I was having conversation. I mean, she just got to the point where she's like, "Well, what are you going to do?" I'm like, "I'm sending it over to my transmission guy so he can tell me what's wrong with the transmission." And she's like, "Well, the moment he opens that transmission up, your warranty is void." And I'm like, I want to know what's the matter with the transmission and how you guys built this. And I said, and at that point, I will determine how I want to deal with you guys. And she said, so you're going the legal route then? Is that what you're saying? Because if you are, this conversation is done. We will have no more communication with you. I never said I was going the legal route. I just said, I'm going to have my guy look at the transmission, figure out what the hell's wrong with it. So once again, just I want people, one, I would like to be financially made whole, number one. Number two, I want people that are considering using Monster Transmission. I'm not saying, hey, do not do business with them. All I'm saying is, before you do business with them, please understand what a 3-year warranty really means. Please understand that when they say, hey, great, we'll take your order, your transmission will be out to you before you know it. What is realistic from a time standpoint? And then also, when you do get it, mine lasted 400 miles. When you do have a problem, I've made 7 phone calls and sent 3 emails, and here we are 2 months later, and almost exactly 2 months later, and the best thing that they've offered me was they'll pick up half of the shipping cost to send the transmission back to them. That's it. No, they're not going to cover the labor. No, none of that. And the other thing is, management doesn't have direct access line. So when you buy a transmission from them, just understand that. Understand that you will never talk to management or anybody that's actually a decision maker if you have a problem. If I had to do it all over again, I just would have used a local shop. Buy local. Use people that live in your community. Find someone who's reputable. I mean, once again, these companies sell you on convenience, but in reality, what all they've done is sold me a heap of aggravation and a lot of money out of my pocket. I do okay, Lucy. I do okay for myself. But if I was someone that was out there working a 9 to 5 job, and they're about to spend $3,300 on a transmission, and this is what happened to them. You're talking about, that's probably for a lot of people the difference between them going on vacation or not for the year. I still went on vacation, but maybe someone else that stops them from taking a family vacation, and then at the end of it, all they got is a heap of aggravation. To me, use someone local, use someone reputable. I understand they're trying to sell you convenience, but don't Yeah, I wouldn't do it again, obviously.